Hey guys, Alan here. I'm all suited up because I've been doing a whole lot of resin printing. Now I know a lot of people aren't familiar with it, which is actually why I made this video. So if you've ever been curious about resin printing, or maybe if you have a resin printer and you just want some tips and tricks, then stay tuned, I'm going to show you all about it. Most people, when they hear the phrase 3D printing, are thinking of FDM printing, which is fused deposition modeling, which is the process of pushing plastic through a hot nozzle which melts it and squeezes it out onto a build plate to build up a 3D object in layers. However, there's another kind of 3D printing that has been growing in popularity the last few years, and it's commonly known as resin printing. In resin printing, there's a vat of liquid resin that hardens under a specific wavelength of ultraviolet light, and the printer is equipped with either lasers or an LCD screen that shines that wavelength of light and can use it to harden consecutive layers in exactly the right shapes to build up your 3D object. In this clip, you can see how the build plate lowers the print to just the right height to cure the next layer, then it pulls it up to peel it off the bottom, and then lowers it again to do the next layer. It does this over and over again until you have a finished print. However, this video isn't meant to be some complete exhaustive guide to everything you need to know about resin printing. Instead, I want to show you a process you'll be doing a lot if you were to get a resin printer, or at least teach you a bit about the technology even if you don't plan to get it. You see, recently I was making some mementos for my daughter's birthday, and I was making a whole ton of them, and I spent a lot of time in this room, and I decided to take a video of myself doing it. And I thought that it turned out to be really instructive and really useful for anyone even thinking about resin printing, to either prepare you for what you're getting yourself into or to scare you away from the thing entirely. So I just printed some goats. I wanted to show the procedure I went through if you decide to get a resin printer, what the process looks like going from actually a finished print to something that you can hold safely. So you always got to wear gloves and eye protection. And you definitely need ventilation. This up here is a fan that's used usually in bathrooms for exhaust, and it goes out to this window up here. And so it just sucks all the air from like this area up, which is good because this is really stinky and probably bad for you. This is the resin itself. And this is alcohol, a whole lot of alcohol, 99%. And it's probably not good to be breathing that either. Plus the air helps like drying stuff off anyway. So you'll see. So I'm gonna have to take the resin and put it into the bath. And we definitely are gonna want lots of paper towels. And this. Best friend when doing this. This is just 99% alcohol in a spray bottle. So sometimes, just to avoid drips, I just like to give it a little wipe around the edges underneath so that it doesn't drip on me as I'm pulling it off. Here. Let's see. And then I also like to have one of these. Actually, I can use this. One of these just to wrap around my scraper tool because my hand is about to get pretty messy. Here, let's turn that on. Haha, that helps. Yep, still dripping a little bit. Nice, look at those goats. You can't see all the detail yet because it's still covered in resin, but I'd say that's pretty good. And I really like the color. Now normally this is a flex plate. I can just bend it, but that usually only works with parts that have a huge, like large surface areas that will actually bend under it. But if you can see it, this is basically just a bunch of dots in connection. Bending it kind of separates them, but it doesn't remove them from the plate. So I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way with a scraper. And you should be very careful when doing this. It's very easy if you have any experience even with regular printing. When you have a plate like this and you're scraping, you can easily slip off and cut yourself. So I've found that this works really well. If I brace, there's a little lip on the inside of here, and I can kind of brace it against that. and my hand is completely behind the plate, so it doesn't, it can't be hit. Oh. So I use a combination of kind of grinding motions like this as well as kind of banging it. Sometimes the banging motion is just enough to get it off the plate, and then the rest takes care of itself. There we go. I'm always afraid I'm gonna break a leg or something, literally goat leg. But so far I haven't. There we go. And there's an extra support just stuck to the plate. There we go. And we'll turn this on to wash. I usually give it about 4 minutes. And then while that's going, I've got a little tray down here that's got dirty things in it that need to be washed from resin. And this is just spraying alcohol on it to clean it up before I put it back on. Put it back on the machine. You don't have to clean both sides if your resin is going to stay the same, which in this case it is. I like to anyway, just because I kind of get it all wet. But as long as the side that is goes up into the magnet, this is a magnetic build plate. So as long as the side that touches the magnet is clean, that's fine. If the other side still has resin on it, it's no big deal. But I'm wiping off both this time. Oops. All right. And then this is the ventilation. So I just like to make sure it's kind of dried off before. Since I just cleaned it with alcohol, it evaporates really quickly. It just needs a little bit of airflow over it. Then I can pop that back on. All right, and then give myself a little wipe down my hands. It's not perfect, but it gets most of it off, so I can keep going without feeling like I'm contaminating everything. And now that that build plate is back on, I can put this top back on and it's ready to print. As long as I'm, with the build plate back on, it's ready to print as long as I plan to use the same resin, which I do for the next batch. In fact, I'd say there's a good chance I need to print those again because I'm going to need like, I think 18 of these goats, and I'm close, but I do like that color. It looks like it came out pretty well. Yeah, that came out beautifully. So I'm going to do another batch of those. So the nice thing is I can just go and just start the print again. Easy enough. Actually, you can actually see it start while we wait for the others to wash. Now you can see by the color of this alcohol, I've used this a lot. It's washed off a lot of resin. It is definitely not clear. So I have a 2-stage bath here. This is the first bath, which is like getting the bulk of the resin off. And then this is the secondary bath, which is mostly clean. You put the parts in that are mostly clean from this bath, and it just uses ultrasonic pulses to get the rest of it off. So this gets dirty eventually, but not nearly as quickly as this does. And when I'm ready, which I will be soon, I can basically swap this out. I can put it in a jar, a clear container, and put it in the sun. And then I move this into here to be for the next round. And then I can refill this with clean. Oh. There we go. Oh, I had that over a little there. All right, I'll let that, oh, actually I don't need to let that dry because it's about to go right into the other bath. So ultrasonic bath, I do it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's already mostly clean. A lot of people just go straight to the ultrasonic bath. I don't. I like to use this big container to get the bulk off. It's more efficient in terms of alcohol usage. It does take a little bit longer to do 2 stages, but in terms of alcohol usage, I can let this get really dirty and that's not as big of a deal. I don't have to change it as often because I can let that get dirtier. And while that's going, you can see how it's printing. I don't know if you can see from that resolution, but the build plate is going down. And then when it shines right here, I don't know if it's visible, but the screen shows the light that it's shining up through the bottom of the vat, and it's hardening a layer that looks exactly like that. And then when it's done, usually it's only a couple seconds. The first few layers are longer. Usually it shines it just for a few seconds, and then you'll see it pull up. There you go. You'll probably see the liquid on the top moving as it pulls it up, and then back down. Then it does the next layer. Every motion, it pulls it up and then puts it back down, but 0.05 millimeters above the last one. That's why the resolution is so good. Every layer is 0.05 millimeters. In fact, that's 50 micrometers. Not sure if this is going to be visible, but you can see this was printed. This is a turtle shell for a turtle thing. And if you look really closely at it, you can see at the top there's layer lines there. From a distance, it looks perfectly round, but because those layers are 50 micrometers each, they're very tough to see. You only see it when there's extremely shallow curves. All right, I think that's good. Put this away. Oh, we have some leftover support material from other prints. Okay, that's okay. Now, what I like to do is before I do anything else, I like to let this dry out a little bit. So I put them in here. And then I use this hook again. This is just put it right there. And now I should put another little ledge right there, but either way, it's just resting on the nitrile glove box. But you can see now it's right in front of the ventilation, so that thing is pulling air through it. They should dry out pretty quickly. It's actually important that you dry it out before you do the last step, which is curing, because somehow the alcohol interferes with the curing process and you get just weird artifacts on it. It doesn't affect the structural integrity of it, but it affects the surface quality. So this machine, it's a wash and cure. So we use the wash part first, and now we do the curing part. So if you're not familiar, I just showed you how this lowers it and shines it. The printer shines a light to harden the resin in layers, but the amount of time that it hardens, it spends shining that light is not very long. It's long enough to solidify it, but not hard enough to like really bring out all the properties. And until you finish curing it, it'll be kind of soft and weak. So this box acts as both the washer and the curing machine. So these are little UV lights. Let's see how we're doing here. Oh, these guys look good. And I'm going to remove the supports before I cure it. I'll do that in a second. I will actually do this right here in the camera. Let's put this up here. Go ahead, take one at a time. The way I've printed these supports, if you can see it, this is using a program called Chitu Box. You pretty much have to use it with the Elegoo resin printers. The connections that they have are very tiny. You can usually just pull them off. So if you look at this right here, I can just pull them off. And usually they leave very tiny marks, sometimes not even noticeable. Now with this particular print, I had trouble with some of the prints. The bottom was, well, not the support, but the bottom of the goat didn't have enough support. So I actually was able to add different size supports just to support the underbelly. And I don't know if it's can be seen how much different it is. Probably not, but some of those supports are thicker. And a little bit more of this will come off, but you can see it does leave a little bit of scarring, but actually once I wash it, some of that'll come off. Some of it is just dust or something from the breaking of the material. Otherwise, that's our goat. He looks pretty good. He's got the true purpose of this whole experiment was to get the writing on there so that it can be a memento for kids for a birthday party tomorrow. Oops. You can also see here some of the support material is the feet of the support material got stuck to the foot, so I kind of have to trim that off. That one looks good. Depending on your model, you might want to be more careful removing the supports simply because this doesn't have a lot of fragile parts. I mean, I can pull on it, I'm not worried about breaking it, but some things like, I printed this tiny little dragon, which is awesome, but you can see there's actually little holes in the wings, and that's because I was too aggressive at pulling those supports off. I mean, also those wings are crazy thin, like really, really thin. I'm not sure there was any way to get those supports off without damaging it, but I got some of them off, and you can see little dimples on that wing. So with this one, with the goats, I don't really have to be careful, but frequently you do. And frequently you're using things like this to trim off those supports. And there you go, some good looking goats. Now there's two things. You can either cure them directly in the machine, which I frequently do. Sometimes though, even no matter how much you use the ultrasonic washer, it still sometimes has like a little layer of uncured resin on it. And I've read that one of the best ways to deal with that is to put it in water. But I sometimes do that first, sometimes I do that at the end. I'll do that at the end here. I'll just give it a couple minutes in the cure machine, regular, and then I'll put it in water for another minute. Here we go, I'll turn off the light to make this extra cool, like a goat dance party. Oh, look at that guy, he's dancing. I think somehow the vibration of the stepper motor spinning the platform is like hitting the resonance of that guy's stance. All right, I think it's about enough for that first round. So at this point, I don't even really need gloves. I mean, all the resin is pretty much gone. I'm just still wearing them because I'm cleaning up other stuff, but this is pretty much safe at this point. I'm just gonna give them another minute, and that'll just make sure that everything is fully cured. All right, there. I like to let them drip off just for a minute like this, so it can drip back into the bucket. Yeah, actually that's all it needs. Put that up here to dry. All right, we'll check that out in a few minutes. I'll just get cleaned up while we wait. So here's the final result after all the washing and curing, and I think it looks pretty good. Check out that text on his back. There is no way you could do that with a regular plastic-based printer. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this, and you can see these weren't the only goats I printed. I printed in all different colors to make mementos for all the kids at my daughter's birthday party. And so there you have it, 3D printed goats. I hope you learned something about resin printing today. At a minimum, that it's a lot different than regular FDM printing. It certainly has its advantages and disadvantages, and at least if you're thinking about it, you'll be better prepared for making that decision, either for or against getting your own resin printer. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks.